Gene Hackman was a tough guy, but he was great. He was also really hard to deal with. Once a big star in Hollywood, Gene Hackman retired and lived a quiet life away from the press. His death looked like it was caused by natural causes, but there were still questions that detectives wanted to answer, so they dug deeper. As the toxicology results came back, more evidence showed up at the scene, which could make the official schedule less reliable and bring up disturbing questions about what really happened in Hackman's last days. As detectives look over key details again, one important mystery still needs to be solved. Was there more to this tragedy than people first thought? We want you to stay with us because the truth could be more dangerous than we think. A private life that everyone sees, Gene Hackman worked in Hollywood for more than 40 years, making him one of the most well-known and versatile artists of his time. Hackman was famous for giving every part depth and realism. He had a special way of making audiences connect with complicated, often flawed characters. His big break came in 1967 with Bonnie and Clyde, where he played Buck Barrow and was nominated for his first Academy Award. He went on to win 2 Oscars, including Best Actor for The French Connection. His place among Hollywood's top was solidified when he won Best Supporting Actor for Unforgiven in 1992. Hackman's performances were always powerful, whether he was a tough detective, a crooked politician, or a conflicted anti-hero. They left a lasting impact on the acting world. Hackman was praised for more than just his long list of movies. He was also known for how hard he worked and how much he cared about acting. Unlike many of his peers, avoided the problems that come with being a celebrity by focusing on giving great shows instead of trying to become famous. In interviews, he often talked about how he wanted to keep his personal life quiet so that people could get into his roles without any ideas about him. This way of doing things helped him become known as an actor's actor, someone who valued telling stories over becoming famous. He was one of the most believable and interesting actors of his time because he could disappear into parts. Working with famous directors like Francis Ford Coppola, Clint Eastwood, and William Friedkin only added to his reputation. When it came to Hackman's personal life, he was a very simple, living, and humble person, not like the powerful roles he played on screen. In 1956, he married Faye Maltese, who would become his first wife. They had 3 children together, but they split up in 1986. After that, he married classical musician Betsy Arakawa, and the 2 of them lived a quiet life in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Hackman stopped acting in 2004 and started a new job as a writer. He co-wrote some historical fiction books to get started. It was so hard for him that even his friends kept quiet, and they admired his choice to leave Hollywood when he was at the top of his game. But Hackman was such a respected figure in the business that actors and filmmakers always looked to him for advice on how to advance in their jobs. But Hackman's exit didn't change anything, and his influence on movies will last forever. Aspiring artists look at Hackman's work and study movies like Mississippi Burning, Hoosiers, and The Royal Tenenbaums. Great stories last a long time after they're over. A lot of directors and stars give Hackman high marks for his work, truth and cunning, so his work will always be relevant. There were times when people knew who he was, that didn't follow any rules. He died in 2025, and afterwards a huge number of people in Hollywood paid respect to him. A lot of people said that he was one of the last great stars from a golden age of movies when he died. There will soon be a hole in the movie business left by Gene Hackman, but Leah Hackman will live on through his unforgettable acts, which will shape the world of movies for future generations. But as Hollywood celebrated his amazing impact, disturbing questions about his last days began to come to light. How Hackman died. The famous actor Gene Hackman died of heart disease about a week after his wife Betsy Arakawa died from a virus that was spread by mice in their New Mexico home. Friday, the authorities confirmed that both deaths were natural. This put an end to a lot of the talk that had been going on since their bodies were found on February 26th. This new information put an end to rumors of foul play, but it also made people worry about Mr. Hackman's mental health because he has severe Alzheimer's disease, which is why the pair went undiscovered for such a long time. Investigators found that Ms. Arakawa had been busy on February 11th, when she ran a few errands. After that day, though, there was no sign of her moving or talking to anyone else, so officials think she probably died that same night. It is thought that Mr. Hackman, who was 95 years old, died on February 18, which is about a week later. Based on forensic evidence, Dr. Heather Jarrell, who is New Mexico's top medical examiner, confirmed these results. Based on the timeline, Mr. Hackman may not have known that his wife had died, or may not have been able to get help during that time because he was probably confused from his Alzheimer's. As you read about when they were found, you can picture how they were dying. It's possible that Mr. Hackman fell and hit his head on the floor of the mudroom, which suggests he may have been having a hard time getting around. Investigators found Ms. Arakawa lying on a counter in a bathroom. They also found standard medications there, but none of them were the cause of her death. Not until February 26th, when maintenance came to their house east of Santa Fe, did anyone notice them. After knocking several times and not hearing back, the worker became worried and told a guard, who promptly called for help. The late finding of the couple sparked worries about caring for the elderly, being alone, and the social problems that Alzheimer's can cause. Unfortunately, Mr. Hackman's bad judgment makes it hard to tell if he knew his wife had died or if he tried to get help. A sad timeline makes the point that older people who live alone are useless, even if they have a lot of money and resources. People in Hollywood are sad about the death of a beloved star who was loved by many generations. This sad story about Mr. Hackman and his wife's deaths makes people think again about how important it is to help each other and take care of older people. Toxicology and medicine study. The toxicology report is an important part of the ongoing probe into the deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa. Authorities are waiting for full results to find out if any drugs, especially those used by Betsy, had anything to do with their deaths. Since her death was considered natural, police are looking into whether medicines, environmental toxins, or health problems that were not found at the time of the tragedy played a part. There was an orange prescription bottle at the scene of the crime, which has led to more questions about her medical care in the weeks before she died. Another thing that is being thought about is whether Betsy was being treated for hantavirus, a rare but dangerous disease that is spread by rodents. If this virus had anything to do with her death, it could mean that there is a bigger public health risk, which means that more research needs to be done on people who live in Santa Fe. Detectives are looking at her medical history and talking to doctors to find out if any of her symptoms or treatments may have had side effects that were not meant. People who are infected with hantavirus often have flu-like symptoms, and if they aren't handled properly, they can cause serious breathing problems or organ failure. The government is looking closely at its digital and financial records to figure out what happened before the two people died. Investigators took 2 cell phones from the house, and any messages on them could be very helpful in finding new leads. Did you get any strange prescriptions, texts, or doctor's appointments? Are there any financial transactions, like prescription purchases or hospital bills, that could help us figure out when Betsy went to get treatment for the hantavirus or another illness? For now, the delay in the toxicology report is the main problem that keeps the case open, even though more information is still being collected. Sheriff Mendoza said it was important to tie up all the loose ends so that no important information was missed. Paul Mauro, an expert, said that subpoenas and medical records take time, but they're needed for a good probe that is open and honest. As more information comes in, toxicology may be the deciding factor, either proving that the death was normal or pointing out a strange event that needs to be looked into. But just as investigators were waiting for toxicology reports to make things clearer, an unexpected discovery threatened to throw the official order of events off.